Retirement. Yeah, it's just awful. I mean, get up whenever you want, do whatever you want. Funny, I remember when I was young, I would hear stories about people who retired and they'd like would drop dead after a year. It's like, oh man, that sounds pretty terrible. I was a busy guy for about 40 years, and I did repairs in drywall. Somebody's got to do it, right? So people would move electrical boxes around or remodel a kitchen or a bathroom, and there was always drywall to repair. And most contractors, they'll do their own electrical, they'll do their own framing, of course, but there's just a few things most of them won't do. Tile, for instance, is one of them. Carpet, painting, most of the time, so half and half. Some contractors will paint, but drywall is one of those things nobody likes to do or does very well, and which was great for me because it kept me busy. I had a lot of experience and a lot of years in just doing patch and repairs and getting the texture. That's the key, is getting the texture to match. But I never really use the word match. Actually, when I talk to clients, I'd always say blend. It's one of those kinds of, things that if you're not careful, some people will say that's not an exact match. It's semantics. The idea that you can blend a texture. A patch is a patch is a patch. And I enjoyed doing that for a lot of years. I made some good friends, worked for some really good contractors, and had lots of satisfied homeowners. There used to be this thing called Angie's List, and I had over 100 reviews when they finally sold the business, and it changed. Every single one of them, with the exception of one, it was a B. But I got A's and A pluses all the way across, 100% satisfactions. I couldn't have paid for the kind of advertising. I actually took the time to do snapshots of all the screens of all of the different ones and, set it aside just for posterity. It's like, I was amazed. Even though I was seldom 100% satisfied with the job that I did, most of the time, almost all the time, the contractors and homeowners were. And that was great. And that's how I spent my adult life. Probably when my daughter was growing up, I had 5 or 6 days a week, sometimes 7, and 8 or 9 or 10 hours a day, unless it was the days I had to go pick her up from school. And then I had to try to figure out ways to compress my abilities and finish the job sooner. I remember in high school, I took a photo class, and I liked it. Prior to that, when I was probably about 10 or 12, our family did a trip to around the United States. We went from California to Mexico, saw the Carlsbad Caverns, I think it was. Then we drove all the way across and to Florida, went to Disney World, then up to see the Statue of Liberty. My dad said, after dealing with traffic in New York, coming from a, San Joaquin area, rural, he didn't want to deal with traffic anymore. So he looked at the Statue of Liberty and he says, "Hey kids, see that little green thing way over there? That's the Statue of Liberty." We just hooked a left at New York and kept going back toward the west. And we tried to hit every spot in between. I don't know if you're my age or around, you might remember there was travel trailers everywhere that had these little stickers at all these different states that they, went to. And Tom was one of those that just had to pick up one in every state. He just was so proud of the fact he loved to travel. One of the only things that I liked about the guy, there's no love loss. But anyways, biological father was not him, incidentally. So, and he never liked me either. That's all right. But one of the places that we stopped in Louisiana was we stopped on the Mississippi River, and there was a boat called the Natchez, and we booked passage on that thing for the afternoon. And I had a camera. My grandmother had given me a 125 Instamatic, and I had just enough money saved up to buy 5 rolls of film, and I used every bit of it. Going along, the river, looking around, I was fascinated by the big boats and the ships that were traveling, on the river there. And once I got those developed, and I wished I'd have kept them. Those were a lot of fun, good memories. But I developed an interest in photography. Like I said, in high school, I wound up taking a class. We shot and developed our own film and learned how to do some trick photography. It was a lot of fun. And later on, my daughter, many years later, my daughter was born, and I really wanted to get footage of her first years, well, all of it basically. But I mean, to begin with, I needed to be able to get footage for posterity again, and so I went to. Where was it? It was like Sears, I think, or Montgomery Wards, which aren't around anymore. Excuse me. And I picked up the best camera I could get, VHS. And I thought, well, I'll just return it after a couple days, but I just need to get her and the mother coming home, right? And I'll be happy with that. And then I'll just, turn it back in. So it was like $900. And this was... Nowadays, you can't get it in a thrift shop. I mean, you could probably find them in thrift stores for about $5, if you can even find the media tapes that they played, VHS-C. Crazy. But I got this camera, and a couple days went by and got some good footage, and I couldn't turn loose. I kept it, and which took a bite out of my savings, but that's okay. I don't regret it one bit. I winded up upgrading that thing to a better camera a couple of years later, and because the quality wasn't, they were growing in leaps and bounds in photography and videography that was hard to resist, and I earned a little extra cash, and I picked up a better one. Canon GL1, and then I miles and miles and miles of footage of that. I've got some really good home videos. That's one of my projects when I get squared away, is to get all of that stuff in one place so that I can be done with it, get it onto a hard drive or something, because not for me, more for my kid, who probably hasn't even seen some of this stuff. She's 30 now. 30-something. And I actually winded up doing a favor for a friend of mine. He says, Scott, I've got this terribly weird, ugly patch thing in this house. I need to get it repaired because there's a camera crew coming in and filming this remodel. I don't know if you all remember, there was a project that was like, home renovation or something. I can't remember what it was now, but this company would go through, pick out a homeowner, do this whole remodel in like 3 or 4 days, and they made a lot of money at it. It was a great show, a lot of fun. It really kind of kicked off parts of the home improvement remodeling industry, which was important in California and other states. That for struggling contractors, there was a little extra work. And so, oh yeah, sure. So, I mean, I was in there, which should have been probably a 2-hour job, because I know how to work with materials that dry and set fast. and it ended up taking like 2 days. Because I would go in and do my thing, and I'd wash up my tools and get ready for the next batch, and the guys would come in and do some carpet work and some painting and trimming, and then the camera, the director would come in and go, "Quiet on the set." So we all kind of just like shuffled off to one side, and he would come in and steal the show for a few minutes with the homeowners, and how amazing, and wow, look at that, and it was an experience. The catering was fantastic. I got to put it to them. But there was one of the guys in the camera crew was using a Panasonic. He's a smaller camera. There was a big camera, which was like the TV camera, for the money shot. And then there was this smaller one, and him and I got to talking, off set, and he says, "Yeah, this is a great camera." He says, "I've dropped it half a dozen times. It's the workhorse. This is what we shoot the B-roll on, which is to kind of fit bits and pieces of stuff in if we don't have enough on the the real camera, the big boy." And he told me about it, and I found one on eBay. I think it was eBay, that had probably maybe 15 hours on it, and it was in excellent shape, and the guys were trying to shoot something with it. It was so complicated that they gave up, and they just wanted to get rid of it. And it came with a laptop computer, some of the software, all of the jacks, the camera, an extra battery, a card, excuse me, which was sold at a really staggeringly good price. And so I bought it. And it was complicated. There was a lot of dials on it. That thing had so many dials and buttons and capabilities. I'll never forget the one thing that this thing was so advanced that you could shoot a video of a person like I am right now, and it actually could do facial corrections in the sense of coloring, or if you had freckles, it would correct things in mid-flight. I literally didn't even turn the thing on for probably 2 weeks. I was just so busy reading, I didn't want to mess it up, screw something up and hurt the camera, or, it cost me a lot of money, considerably less than what you'd buy a new one for. But I finally turned it on, and I started doing videos just in the backyard and around and whatever. And after a couple months and downloading it into my computer, part of my other joy was editing. I loved working with editing. Somehow you could waste days on a 5-second spot, just getting it, because there were so many tools and so many ways to do things. Staggering. Funny, now it's the videos that have less effects, less editing, that are more popular. And I think people appreciate that, because AI is doing so much that the reality of people that are real, right, are more appealing, at least to me. I watched a lot of videos before I started this channel, and there's a big difference. So I enjoy natural, unscripted. I did weddings for a while. I think I did 4 or 5 weddings. And when you start selling weddings, you run into bridezillas. They're very difficult to work with. Most of the time, most of them had some common sense and understood that this little tweak and that little tweak and that little tweak was going to be about 9 hours. And They really just wanted the memory. They didn't, they weren't paying for perfection. I wasn't charging like some of the big houses, of course. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with the weddings. Family stuff. Oh my God. Over the years, between the 3 cameras, I had shot, like say, miles of footage. And a lot of it has got to be correlated and put together somehow. And I realized I can't put it together and edit it. It's just, I'm going to pile it all into one, right? One long linear piece, and somewhere down the line, somebody will play it and get a kick out of it. My thinking at one point was, one of the things that I tried to do was, I realized somewhere in the future, if I don't lay down a track or two here or there, or like what I'm doing right now for my daughter or, people who'd be interested, nobody's going to know what I sounded like, what my thoughts were, what I liked, didn't like, my politics. And if you think about it, our grandfathers, I barely remember mine. I spoke with my brother yesterday. He's had some pretty good memories of Chet. But before that, we don't know anything about him. I mean, except what he looked like and what he sounded like. And, he played guitar and he ate peanut butter by the spoonfuls. He was married to my grandmother. And then he remarried another woman. And I had some cousins that way. But we don't know. I mean, it's very limited. But if you had something like this, a medium like this, if we had YouTube, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago more, we'd have some amazing footage and data from our ancestors. Imagine going back, 200 years or 100 years. I mean, and tracing your family tree and being able to pass that along. That's what I'm getting at. There's really no reason why we, retired, older people, even you're not trying to be a movie star, but right? So, but it is an option to be able to pass things along. Imagine for a moment if imagine you're, up there and you still have, and you're watching this now, 20 years from now, what would you say? And who would you say it to? Would you apologize to people for, bad behavior? I mean, there's stories you could tell, and then there's stories you can't tell. But I know that in my small group of friends and family that I'll be missed. And this would be one of those kind of things it would be hard to watch initially, I'm certain. But if it didn't exist, that would be tragic in a way. I mean, I've lost dogs over the last couple of years that I still can't look at video for more than a couple seconds of 2 of my little friends that passed away a couple years ago. And I know people who have animals and lost animals suffer in different ways. Some people say, well, if you can't afford a vet, you shouldn't have a pet. I think that's short-sighted. I think that's unfair. I think path crosses between humans and pets for a reason. I mean, who knows what their little critters are thinking, but I couldn't really afford to take my dog in every time, something went wrong. And finally something went wrong and I couldn't figure it out. And by the time I came home one day and I had maybe what I thought was an answer, he was gone. And and how people cope with that, some people, put him in a jar on the table or on the mantle or And some people, just, I don't know. People deal with it differently. Pets are tough, especially if you're alone, and you have a pet or two, and then they're gone. It's pretty devastating for a while. You really struggle and have to choke it back to be able to get through thinking about them. I mean, as it is right now, I look out my window and I see where I laid to rest my last one about 3 months ago. And the ground, digging the grave is no joke. It occurred to me in a moment of, I'm trying to have some levity. I thought to myself, the next dog I get is going to be smaller, a smaller dog. Ginny out there, she probably weighed about 90 plus. She was a big dog. She was a shepherd and Rottweiler mix, or shepherd and pit bull, I can't remember now. She was probably about 6, and something went wrong in her guts, got all twisted up. And they can't just operate on dogs at a certain age without, risking all kinds of secondary issues, not to mention that you have to take out a mortgage. That's the guilt of that. It kills me sometimes. Not the first time I wasn't able to do something when I probably could have done something if I could have afforded to do something. I don't know. I know people who spent thousands of dollars on vet bills for cats and dogs and horses. But anyways, I have a great dog currently, and she misses her friend. They would play together last winter. In the snow. Some of the hardest things I ever watched was while she was laying in my living room. She was gone for probably a couple hours, and I think a lot of people, without telling you about it, but they'll put the animal someplace and just kind of hope that she starts breathing again, but she didn't, and pulled a blanket over her, and Pete was grabbing the blanket and pulling it off and trying to nudge her to wake up. So yeah, it's along those lines. Yeah, I didn't mean to be all doom and gloom there, but sometimes when you talk about animals and how you care about them and how everybody does things differently and gets through it, there's always another opportunity, because I think, the good Lord probably has a way of lining up the right dog with the right man. I mean, after all, God, dog, right? Goes back to the idea that, when we're gone, there's videos of us. I mean, what you're looking at right now will be around long after I'm gone. And I think it's going to be, it makes it easier for some people, maybe harder than others, or harder initially. But I think in the end, we all have things we would like to say, or if you can imagine not being able to and your time is done and you can't say anything, what would you have said? There was a lady called Irma Bombeck in the 80s in California who wrote a column for the paper, and one of my mom's favorites. Lady had a great sense of humor for the time, but she postulated, if she could live her life over, because she was, I think, had liver troubles, and it was killing her. But she talked about that she would have, burned the good candles, the rose candle that she had kept and never lit, that was sitting in storage and melting away, using the good china, using the good silverware, using things and living in such a way that, being aware of your mortality gives you certain insights, right? I think the opportunity for us to be able to put our thoughts and things down onto a forum like this is grand. This is why I'm doing it. I mean, I tried to figure out ways to tell good stories, funny, some satire, maybe a little bit here and there. But I mean, the idea of being able to push a narrative, certain narrative with a script is just, I couldn't do it. But you tap the button, you let the camera roll, and you just go with it. You make a few notes, right? Oh, I got one here that's funny. My mother, devout religious woman, we used to have a service that we'd go through and cleaned parking lots with this huge machine. And you can't imagine some of the things that you'd run across while you're cleaning these parking lots, shopping center parking lots. But she found this little thing that had a wire on it, and you squeeze it together and the other end opened up, and it had a wrapped around with a couple beads, and it was a trinket, a cute little trinket. So she puts it on her keychain, and we're in church one day, and somebody asked her, say, Pat, do you know what that is? What is that? She goes, oh, I don't know what this is, but it's like a little, so I clipped it on my keychain, and it's pretty, and it's got little beads on it. And the other gal told her what it was. It was a roach clip, and Mom didn't even know what that was, of course. And she explained it, and she pointed out the little tar and burn marks on the one side. And my mother, the face that she made was priceless. She was horrified. Anyway, that's kind of to round out all the harsh that came before. I mean, I just, I would want to encourage anyone who's retired, because we have more time now. Well, we should, unless you're, I have a landlord that's always pushing me to do more than what I'm able to do currently, which is a good thing, because like I say, if I left to my own devices, I'd probably sit here and make videos all day. But I do find the time to manage to do both. Well, most of the videos anyway, but some of the stuff that needs to get done. So we have the time, we have the abilities. You can do this with your cell phone. I mean, I'm using an iPad, but talk to your family. You don't even really need to tell them you're doing a YouTube channel, but start something, say something, remember something before you forget. Okay.